Okay. Right. Just as we get to start. Okay. Otabo, you're here. Otabo, can you tell us how your week went? How was your week?
Good afternoon, sir. Sorry for joining late.
Yeah.
My week was fine, sir.
Okay. All right.
It was a work week, but then it was fine. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Desmond, how was your week?
Yeah, it was great.
All right. I have Miriam. How was your week?
It was okay, sir.
Oh, great. Excellent. Dr. Kofi, how far?
My week was very productive.
All right. And Cynthia?
My week was great, sir.
Ah, that's nice. So not even one challenge to express. I had a lot of it within the week. So, and it can be so. Sometimes you have so much turbulence, and what's important is whether you're able to circum them. Yeah. So much of it. And that's the idea. All right, so thank you. So we'll set the ball rolling for today. Let me just get this class started. Okay, so today we'll get started, and we'll give you a background of why we're doing this, and that is in continuation of our mentorship on productivity, innovation, and research. Okay. Last week, we were supposed to have some sessions, but then today, I had to bring these two things together, and we'll try to smartly run through a presentation. And on the second part, we have to be doing some practicals. And this practical will require that you should get started as soon as you can, especially if you find any part of it relevant to what you do. Okay, a recap. Here you had the agenda, and that means that for today's business, we are almost collapsing our session 2 and session 3 in how I'm going to present this, and I'll do that as smartly and, of course, less tasking as possible. First is, let me just inquire, how many of us have a Gmail account? How many of us have a Gmail account? Head of house, help me to confirm. Or do we say, how many do not have? How many of this class do not have a Gmail account? I think that will be quicker to get the result we want. Head of house, can you give me the outcome?
I think nobody has lifted their hand that they don't have a Gmail account. So I believe we all have.
So that means you can just raise up your hand, just click on the hand up object if you do not have a Gmail account, because I'm going somewhere with it. All right. So if you all have a Gmail account, that is very, very relevant to what we are to do about now. And that is to say that if you own a Gmail account, you have been moving about with a powerful tool, a powerful computer infrastructure that you may not even know that you ever was doing that. And that's, you need to know today how you may begin to put them to use. Okay, so why Python for AI ML? First is that Python is a mere programming language. And this language has become commonplace by several professionals in that it makes coding, or when I say coding, you're writing instructions in a particular syntax. Syntax means obeying the rule of a particular language rule. So when you write in a particular language rule, especially has been formatted or designed for the Python language, then you will say that you are actually programming in Python. And today, more and many, of course, non-computer science graduates and professionals all over the world are writing Python. And they really don't have to do so much because Python is so close to you that the language content and practice or the tradition is close to even the language you speak. So that is why it has become very acceptable and seen as like a #1 global language for anyone to address automation issues, particularly as it relates to your background and profession. I always stress that because you really do not have to be a computer scientist to do what we're saying. Now, setting up Python environment on Google Colab. So where I was going with the question of whether you have a Google account is because your Google account and everyone's Google account has the product called Google Collaboration. So for short, Google Colab is a powerful environment that you can actually use to do some basic and sometimes very serious and complex programming. And we're going to see a bit of that today. Now, Python basics. Now, the rule about Python, or any language ever, or any computer language, when you hear coding, programming, do you know that everyone on earth is a programmer? Dr. Kofi, can you say,
Yes, please.
can you agree or say that you are a programmer? Okay, let me start by let me start by defining what programming means. A programmer, what programmers, yes. Now, the word program comes from software design, and is that art of breaking down tasks, set of steps that is needed to solving a problem into solution steps. So people who now write unique languages to solving problems are now called programmers. So the question now is, you're a pharmacist. Do you consider yourself a programmer? That's the question. Okay, you're not sure. Let's go to gift. Let's go to gift. Let's go to gift. No, let me leave it first. I don't want to be in doubt, but later we'll get that. Let's go to gift. Atabo, would you consider yourself a programmer? Gift, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. From your definition, I would say yes. It says a programmer is the one that breaks down tasks, right?
Yes.
That's able to break.
Do you have that ability? Do you exhibit that kind of characteristics as a person to solving a problem?
Yes. So the person has to be. So a person with a problem solver would actually pass for a programmer. So yes, I think yes.
Okay, all right. Dakori? Dakori, do you agree that you are a programmer?
As in me as a person,
Yes. No, you as a person, not you as me. Oh, sorry, your sound is
I said, based on your definition,
yes.
yes.
Okay, great, excellent. Now,
I
excellent, great. Let me take Cynthia's position. Cynthia, do you see yourself a programmer, by chance?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Now I want to go back to Dr. Kofi. Are you comfortable to talk now, Dr. Kofi?
I would say yes.
Okay, excellent. Now, so it therefore means that every human being who has that ability to think, to produce solution steps, in fact, even if the solution steps is in your local dialect, yes, if it is in your local dialect, but so far you have solved that problem, that is the skill of a programmer. And that is exactly what every professional, there's no course of study, there's no course content that you don't have issues to solve. And that is because when technologies first started, originally started, we now set IT and technology aside. We now begin to have computer science department, computer science courses, and people now go to read computer science. And I, for one, suffered it. Because you know what? I went to do computer science, and I later found that I don't have a job until I can have an area to apply what I know of computer science. I went into finance and banking, and today I am writing programs based on investment processes. And that's what I've done all my life. So you are even at a better, you see that you are not computer scientists, and you didn't start with computer science, you are almost having an advantage because you already have an area of application. And why will it be that the computer scientists will be looking for where to adapt, where to do your job? And there is no way, as a computer scientist, I'll be able to do your job if I'm not who you are. So the realm right now is a balanced realm, and non-tech people should just take advantage of the global advancement in AI because the job is now on your palms, quite frankly. So we progress. Thanks. Now, Python basics. The basics of any programming language, for which now we are concentrating on Python. There will always be something around data. I'm sure you know what data means. Do you know what data means? Who knows what data means? Or rather, let me put it this way. Data and information. Can somebody give me a distinguish between data and information? Even if that definition is from your own career contents, like in pharmacy, marketing, what do you see or term as data and what do you term as information? Any medical person, of course, pharmacy here? Yes. Dr. Kofi, can you help?
I think data is more of a set of characters, symbols, or any other representation that can be put together to make a meaning. So when we are able to make a meaning out of those things, then we have an
information. Who else? Whose profession supports what he has just said? Who else? Or whose profession can his own profession say otherwise? Anybody here? And what
maybe I could add something. Okay.
So, Dr. Kofi, you were saying something.
I wanted going to give an example, but I think we can
Okay,
continue.
no, we are fine. We are just fine with that first. Let me hear every other profession now, because you see, in this class, I wish they were all pharmacists. So any other profession where data
I
and
think,
information relationship is different from what Dr. Mensah just said?
yeah, I think Miriam wanted to say something.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead. Just the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to give you a definition, my own definition of data and then information.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, so per my understanding, data is a raw or unprocessed fact, whereas
Excellent.
information is a processed data.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So what you have just said now, is it by any way different from what Dr. Mensah said in his own profession?
No, it isn't.
Excellent. So we are going somewhere. Are you together? So let's go, we're going together. So we now realize that that thing called data, and when you are planning to set instructions, build instructions to produce an outcome, to process something, you know, there are types of data. So that is what you should prepare your mind. There is no other programming language that does not respect or identify with that fact. There will always be types of data. So there are something like control structures and some other things around data, which we're going to also see. Then hands-on Python, we're going to look at that, and I just proceed into it. Okay, first, this says, why Python? We've spoken about this, so let's don't waste time on that. Now, what is Google Colab? We started with that your Google accounts actually have environments where you can actually write programs. Sincerely, they are full-grown computers, and these computers are hosted in the cloud, and you almost can achieve basic to simple to basic, and sometimes even complex tasks. And you have not gone outside that, because you really don't need to keep big servers. I expect to find so many things. And you see that the Google Colab is within your email environment, and steps to getting started. We're going to look at that in the course of our talk today. So let's talk about data types. You have types of data that is classified as integers. We have types of data that is classified as floats. We have types of data that is classified as strings. And we have types of data that is classified as lists. Now, for integers, we all did basic mathematics. It's not different from what we did at that level. Anyone? Integers, let me put the question. Does integers have decimal parts? Dr. Kofi? The types of data in pharmacy as a course, if you want to say integer, does this type of data, do they have, do I say fractional or decimal parts? Or who else, who can answer that? Gift?
Yeah, I think I was talking. My
Okay, you were muted before, okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, so integers do not have decimal parts.
Thank you. They are whole numbers. And excuse me, we are in the same world. We are in the same profession. What happens there is the same and cuts across. It's a global norm. Then when you say floats, floats are those that will now come with decimals and fractional parts, what you call decimal numbers or something. That's floats. Then strings are those ones that are not classified as numeric. These ones are sets of data that have combinations of alpha and numeric. It can be either or a combination. And later, I think the other one could be, let me particularly, list may not really make much sense, but I think let's consider Boolean, where Boolean can be the sets of data that are perhaps sometimes used for conditional stuff, when the sets of data can be classified as sets of data that simply portray whether they are true or false in conditional usage. Okay, then in Python, or normal process of steps. You know, when you're instructing machine to go and do something, we can actually create a control flow. You know, so you have something like for NUM in numbers, where NUM and numbers are values, you know. So if N, you know, taking value from 2 and to this point, it says you are equating 0 to 2, you know, into N, or rather, whatever N is times 2, where the value was this, you should print F num as even number. So the print statement is just to show what the result is, where you have done an assignment or a condition here, and it will print what the value of num by 2 is. Then we also could see functional usages in Python, just as it is in other systems. When you say def is used to define a function, where an example of the function here in this case is add. And within the add function, you see add bracket open, A, comma, B. The A, comma, B, A can take any value, B can take any value. So when you now have instruction return A plus B, you are simply saying that whatever the value you find in A, add it to B and return the outcome. It's so simple. It's the same thinking. So even in your English language or your mindset, this is the way you think along. Okay, then breakout for hands-on session. We're going to do that. We want to just run out because I'm going to do some of this on an empty collab, you know. Then the next in Python is that to make life easy for you, there are certain library functions. Once you can just get to know how to use those library functions and you can define them before you get your problem started, the rest will be easy. Because in this case, there's an item here called, a library here called NumPy. Is a library for efficient numerical computations. You know, it says, why use NumPy? It's an actually efficient way of processing numeric issues, numeric problems. You know, it's used in data science and AI handling different things and all that. So look at an example here. Import, you need, in a library area, you need to import certain libraries. This, when you import these libraries, it enables you to be able to use them. Look at this way, the way this has been imported here. The language here says import NumPy as NP, NP being the short form for NumPy. And look at the expression they now have later here. They said ARR equals to NP.array of all these numbers. Then print will now output whatever ARR is plus 10. Whatever the function here is, it will output 11. Because whatever ARR is this, it means that for every item of array here, 10 was to be added to it. So when you add 10 to 1, you get 11. When you add 10 to 2, you get 12. When you add 10 to 13, you get this. 10 to 14, you get to 4, you get 14, and 10 to 5, you get 15. So that's the same way. And some other simple ways of handling things. And the next one is also another, there are not too many, but they are known and useful, very common library names. The other one is the pandas. And the pandas, you import pandas as PD, which is the short form. And in Panda, there is actually a way you read things into it, like data equals to name, where name can be a list of items. Doris, Akman, Charlie. Age can be, that is, their ages can now be stored into this place where you have 24, 27, 22 being the respective ages for Doris, Akman, and Charlie. Now, where here we now want to say PD being Panda now, dot data frame of the data that we have put some values into. You should now move whatever is there into DF. When you now say print DF, it will automatically output and generate the answer or the output based on the data that you have stored inside the data frame. And data frame is like what you call the data dictionary. All this, it will be easy for you to now locate things, begin to Google things, and you find life a lot easier because these are things people read on their own, but they just need to be guided and mentored. Now, also, more hands-on exercises I'm going to get, and these items will be like, in this case, we have a typical data frame that we have formed here. We have set Mensa or Tabor, Miriam. I just took time to just put all this together, and then we now say Mensa Ottawa Marian, we also gave them what their favorite topic could be in AI. We say natural language processing, computer vision, or reinforcement learning. These are the three languages that are split across Mensa, Ottawa, and Marian. I could just say PD data frame and store the result in PD and DF, where DF is actually the short form for data frame. So we now say print DF, and to tell the S output. So the good use of this is that if you have thousands of this set of data, the computer will handle everything and speedily generates a result with some, of course, complex mathematics that they want to do. So in a general, putting this generally, the AI opportunities can be used to address your concerns, can be used to address your areas of specialization. Is it in the area of transport and storage? Is it in the area of construction? Is it in the area of real estate? I mean, is there anybody here into real estate? Anyone? Construction, transport and storage, mining and quarrying, electricity, gas. In fact, arts, entertainment, and recreation, it knows no bounds. Professional, science and technology, water supply, waste management, public administration. Some of us are even in government organizations, and your responsibility is along these areas. Where you are perhaps what you are doing is to address public administration, security, and so on. Here, admin and support services, information and communication, agriculture, financial and insurance, accommodation and food services, household activities. So wholesale and retail trade for people in business. Is it health and social work, education and manufacturing? Generally, other services. And what we are talking about here does not restrict you. It does not matter who you are. Even if I'm into construction today, I can tomorrow be addressing things in health tomorrow. What you just did is the power to be able to do so, especially if you understand, and of course, we have authentic data to work with. Okay, so the other items like Matplotlib is a visualization tool, which is also a library away. And this library is used for creating visualizations in Python. In fact, don't you see when you're looking at some processes and people pick data, and data is almost like talking to you, data, almost making attempts as if to speak to you. This is the skill. When people say they go to do data science, when people say they go to do artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of this is the kind of exposure. And it's so basic. You find all these things all over the internet today. But then, if not mentored or tutored or guided, you may not be able to do much or go far. And these things have become very expensive if really you want to be in serious classes where these things have been doing with a lot of use case scenarios. We're going to be get into some sample use case before the end of the session today. Then other exercises, which I'm sure we'll better appreciate if we are on a notebook. Right. Further exercises would be, we want to do some of this. Let's even get into the Google Colab before we can appreciate that. You can actually create a data frame containing 5 students and their respective scores in the test, then calculate their the average score. All those things is as you have determined in here, because you know the mathematics of deriving those things. You have the students. Inside the student, you have actually put the Alice, Bob, Charlie, David, and Eva. And then underscore, you have put their respective scores, 85, 90, 78, 88, 92. And you now use the PD, that's the Panda function now to call the data frame and call the data, and you drop the result in DF. You are printing DF. So when you now say DF score in quote dot mean, you are interested in the average of whatever is bringing what was stored inside data. Okay. Then Matplot will be able to plot graph based on all this, because it's actually something to show you what data is made, what data what data is in a visualized form. And I'll just skip through this because all this will be better appreciated. You know, it will be better appreciated on the Google Colab. Okay, then practical questions and answers on these key takeaways. Python is actually essential for AI ML development. You shouldn't look at Python or programming language from today as anything that is asking or anything that is out of place that is not within your purview and you think is not your business. No, there's nothing like that. Your responsibility it is, and the knowledge is available and is what anyone can do. There's no special skill. Though it is special, but you have it and try to see whether you won't become special. Of course, far better when compared with others who have not done so, even in your same profession. You see? So practice with libraries like NumPy, Pandas, and Matplotlib, and all that. This is just like summary. The machine learning modes can be implemented easily using the scikit-learn. You know, this, and you keep practicing with real-world data problems, and it shouldn't be an issue. Now, when we spoke about Google Colab the other time, Google Colab, we always want to have access to your Gmail accounts. And we're going to see an example of that. I tried explaining that in this place because the path that will lead to where you are running the thing has to be established on your notebook. What you call the Google Colab interface, where you write your Python, is called a notebook. But sometimes in Python, some core programmers actually, they do certain, I say Python installations, because it has an IDE, Jupyter IDE, where you can actually create Jupyter notebooks. And those ones can be very complex for those who maybe are programmers. But like I told you, there's nothing. You can do as much as they are doing in your ordinary Google Collaborator, as it were. Then, in your Google Colab, you may want to see that if I have my set of data, how do I pick them? So there will always be a path, and this path should be unique and directed. Every Google account has what I'm talking about here. Content, drive, my drive. Then whatever you create as a folder, okay? And I was using Dr. Kofi as an example, where you may have some pharmacy drug demand, set of data, and that file in a CSV form. Hope you know what CSV means. CSV means comma separated values. That is text form. Because data sometimes are stored in that format when they are raw. And in your Google Colab, you can actually point to that text file and read the data directly for your analysis. Okay, so on. These are examples of how to read the file. The typical file is there. You load it and you check how it is. And we're going to see more of this. This is an example, typical, the way it looks, but you may not better appreciate it when this is just like a screen from a presentation. And look at the set of data, for instance, an example of some data where I have the order number, the customer ID, the restaurant, the cuisine type, cost of order. It could be in any whatever form, food preparation, delivery time, depending on whatever the assignment is, whatever project that you have at hand, your data, and this could be in thousands, hundreds of thousands of records. When you hear big data is not just when you're having like 20, 200, even a million is not. It's actually when it runs into hundreds of thousands, even sometimes millions. And at that time, the difference, what we are doing is now, you now need bigger central or processing units, which even on Google, you can just pay a token to want to use such high-level servers. And that's actually how I'll end that presentation. So next, I want us to spend some good time in typical notebooks. Okay. At this point, is anyone panicky? Is anyone afraid? Doctor, before I move to the next. Dr. Kofi, express your fears.
I'm not afraid. The only thing is that when you are talking about some of the things, It was a bit abstract, but you kept repeating that when we get to practice, we will understand it. So I'm actually looking forward to practicing.
Excellent, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Miriam, somebody should express his or her fears. Your fears, please.
I do not have any fears. I think they are the same as Dr. Scofie's fears.
Excellent.
But
Excellent.
you've assured us that when we get to practice it, we understand. So
I actually want to get somebody in a phobia mood. Gifty, your, let me hear you. Gift, I need to hear your case.
So far, no fear. I'm one step at a time too. I'm guessing.
Cynthia, no, express your fears, though, because next time when you are doing your Google pages, you won't tell me you have any excuse because I need to see the fears. Okay, Cynthia? You're muted. You're muted. Dakora? Express your fears. Somebody here has a background in data science, and who is that? If I want to get to that person, somebody actually expressed knowledge in data science. Desmond, your fears, please, or otherwise. Yeah, Desmond, your voice. Okay. That is Abraham. Any fears? I need someone that will have some fears, and the person will be the one to lecture the next part. Anoluapo, Abraham, are you there? Unmute yourself. Okay, do I take it that these are the people that have fears? Yeah, I know, look what boy. He just chatted now. I can see, can somebody read what he said? I will wait till we practice. You can see people are having the fears already. They can't even say it. At least Dr. Mensah was able to voice it, okay? All right. Adubi, are you there? Okay. All right. Okay, so next, I want to try and go to share my Google account, my drive in my Google account, so that it will be that you know a familiar environment. Who is familiar with something like this environment? If you have a Gmail account, have you ever been to the drive?
Yeah, I use it very often.
You use it very often. How many of us haven't seen the drive of your Gmail account before? Is that possible even? Is that right? Okay. So in there you have you store a lot of things. You store things. You know, some notebooks might have used for practice for different things and all that. People use it to even store a lot of things. You understand? So I'm sure you're familiar with that. So, but then, where do we have the Google Colab? Now, when you go to Drive, you see the plus here when you're trying to create a new file. When you say new, right? you have new folder, file upload, folder upload, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Forms. I'm sure we're familiar with all this, right? Now, if you go further to the more and look through what you have there, you will find Google Collaboratory. Who has ever been here before? Abraham. Abraham? Or who else has been here before? So this Google Collab, for short, when you click, this is what you get, a blank template. A blank template comes out. It gives you a default name untitled because you are yet to give this blank template any name. And the extension will always be IPYNB, being Python Notebook. So you can give whatever name you want to your blank template, and you can begin to start doing your programming. So if we go back to our documentation or some other forms of, let me see where I can just get, sorry, I'll share this back again. I want to just bring a little task that we can use to do some manipulation there. So it will be about, I want to just use like a particular case study. Let's say control this, and in this case, I have something about electricity, gas, water supply, and water view. All this, okay? So that empty screen, let me see. Let me paste it and get things copied from here. Just copy some things to drop. 1 minute to share my screen back. Okay. 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 Right.
I don't know if everybody caught that, but I've been trying to open the Google Collabs.
Okay.
I've not been able to. So if you can maybe go over it.
Okay. All right. Let's even continue. Let's even continue. Let me just say, what do I do now? Do I go back to that point? Let's go back
where we can find the Google Collab.
Yeah,
from the Google Drive.
That's within the email accounts. Okay, let's go back there. So I go back to my box. Here. Oh, sorry. Okay, so you can cross-check this with me here now. Let's do it together. Google. Yeah, you can see it now. So at this point where you in your account, if you look towards the top right corner, towards that, it will indicate your account name. Is that right? Who else is doing it? It will indicate your account name. Then to the left-hand side here, you see this plus sign. This plus sign, you can actually go below and see more. And under there, you will see actually more lists. You will find Google Colab. It's a free tool on every Gmail account. Can you reconfirm that?
So,
Yeah.
yes, from my end, I think I have up to Google Apps scripts. I don't have the others.
Okay. If you look further down, there's something they say connect more apps, assuming it was not there. So you have the liberty to search more, to add. You understand? So we can continue. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So there's something below there, you see a plus sign that says connect more apps. It will take you to even a lot more beyond Google Collaboratory. Okay.
I've seen it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. So, okay. Now, I'll show you the formats of how things get done. You will have, this is a typical problem for electricity consumption that I want to share with you, because you see, it could be any problem. It could be any problem, okay? So, okay, so just look at this. This is a typical, very small solution or problem. So, and what is it that this problem deals? It reads, okay, first is that if I told you on a normal notebook, what do we first to do? We have to first initialize the libraries. We mentioned Panda the other time. This is where Pandas was initialized, because later in the programming, we are going to use it. Then also here, we also initialized matplotlib, which is something that plots a chart. I don't know whether you are getting me, which is something that plots a chart. Now, and after we have done this initialization, the next will just be to load the data. What data of what class of problem do we have? So we load the energy data, like in this case, this is actually an energy problem, for instance. So this file is, just as an example, is a file containing some raw data. Now, and what is the data that is in there? If I look below under visualize energy consumption, these are the typical set of data. 1, 2, in fact, it's like just 2 columns. One is dates, then the other one is energy data, but that is consumption, date and consumption. So date, this was the amount of power used. So date, another set of data used. And if you have this across a whole month, I'm sure you can use it to do some analysis. This is what we're talking about. So your Google Colab, you can freely put all these kind of problems and deal and solve such problems. Okay, so when we now read this data, make sure that that set of data should be stored somewhere on your Google, on your drive. So at this point, you must be referencing the right paths to that drive. And when this is being read into the data frame, like in this case, the name of the data frame is called energy_data, you can now move below and use the visualization library tool, which is the matplotlib. So, and how you use that is just to say plot.plots, plt.plots, then the name of the data frame, then you indicate the fields, and it will pick them, the title and everything. At the last, you say plt.show, and this will give you a chart. This is one simple problem. Let me just try to locate another. Let me just try to locate another from a different area, problem area, for instance. And this may be something from, yeah, this may be something from real estate. This may be something from real estate, where a real estate agency may use AI to analyze market trends so that they can adjust rental prices dynamically, which can increase occupancy rates by a particular percentage. So they could just put something together and they go to their Google Colab. Don't forget, where is your Google Colab? You are moving with it. In fact, it is your mailbox. It is your mailbox, which all this is doable from a smartphone. You don't even need a PC. Okay. Okay. So we go back to that notebook, Google notebook. I've just painted another problem. Now, this one, like I mentioned, is a typical simple problem for a real estate set of data. So what are the libraries? We have to first initialize the library. Panda is the most important and will always be there. In this case, they are actually importing Seaborn. Seaborn is actually another very relevant, tool or library, because it is used to design box plots, design plots, plotting of charts to share, histograms and all of that. Okay, so here, after we have actually identified, or we have defined the library or initialized the library, we need to load the data set. That's the principle. So it will always be that we have to load a data depending on what data that you have. Now, visualize property prices. Now, from that data, these box plots, which we have, which is a capability from the Seaborn library, will be able to take these properties, take the price column, and do a data real estate data, which you have read into the data frame DF, and it will plot it and show the graph. And this will show you the data based on the content of whatever data that you have collected for the purpose of the real estate problem. So I'm just sharing this for you to know that it's not just one class of person. In fact, this or whoever uses these tools doesn't have to be a computer scientist. It's actually you that need them. It's actually where you cannot, that you're now talking to a computer scientist. What for? I mean, the computer scientist may not even know your issue. You know the issues and you know how to address them. So why can't you use your basic tools and automate them? This is what we are saying. Okay? Right. I'm sure nobody is still afraid, right? I keep going because I want to show like a complete template of a problem that we have managed using these concepts. And I'm doing this so that nobody may feel okay. Right. I will share this with you, that a major problem I want to share that we can solve using this. Let's just see how it's driven down, how this goes down. Okay. This seems to be something, if tomorrow you are now very sound in the use of these things, you know the mathematics, you know everything, and I now have problems I want to begin to solve. Let's look at more capabilities, still on the Google Colab, and perhaps on a much more complex problem, and let's read the context. So we will just look at this final area to see how we can adapt all this English that we are speaking, that in its real activity, they are all problem-centered, okay? This problem will be using neural networks to detect or predict bank churning Who understands what I mean by this? People are leaving the banks. When I say people, bank customers. Some banks are having problems. Either they're having customer service issues, and bankers or customers, their customers are leaving them to go to other banks who are doing better and perhaps offering them better services and all of that. And they believe they need to be able to determine what their problem is and perhaps be able to predict what their future may be looking like. And that is why we have a problem like this. So look at the problem context. That businesses like banks, which provide service, have to worry about problem of customer churn. That is, customers leaving and joining another service provider, leaving from one bank and going to another bank. It is important to understand which aspects of the service influence a customer's decision in this regard. So management can concentrate efforts on improvement of service, keeping in mind these priorities. So what is the objective? You have a chance to do some of these jobs to help the companies. So why and what can you do? Now, I'll leave you with a particular website that you can visit for myriads of problems. Please don't fail to go to this site. It's very useful. No problem. And for you, Dr. Kofi, please go there, search for problems relating to pharmacy. And you will see myriads of options online. Problem solved, I mean. For people in marketing, please go there. For people in engineering, try it. And if in future you so like and so love it and you're active, and you want to even be joining hackathons on that same portal, people are paid when they win their competitions. Yes, so there's even such opportunities. I don't think any payments or winnings are maybe less than $50,000 in some of them. And you can find that out. From time to time, they do advertise those hackathons. Okay, so the hint here is that based on what we've discussed previously, what do we do? In fact, this is the way you grade or make people to go do a test or an exam when you have this kind of a problem. So these are the hints. Even if you don't do any other thing, please study this. It says, hints on evaluation distribution. That is, the points distribution for this case is as follows. Read the data set, drop the columns which are unique for all users, like IDs and all that. So when you are doing each of these, they're able to give you your points. And it's very easy for you to get 100% on this kind of a project. And that's why people get 90, 99, 80, 98 in data science projects. Because if you're just using your mind, you will always be there. Okay? Now, distinguish the features and targets, and you earn some points. There is always a flow. And this flow is not about being a programmer or no programmer. That's why in classes when these kind of things are taught today, you have electricians, that's electrical engineering, you have psychologists, you have so many, you have philosophers, you have politicians, political scientists. It's the same class. Now, distinguish the feature and targets. Now, divide the data set into training and test sets. Normalize the train and test the data. Initialize and build the model. Identify the points of improvement and implement the same. Predict the results. And of course, print accuracy score and all that and get you. So it's a very interesting thing going forward. Data dictionary. What is the data dictionary? The Excel sheet that you are to load. Here are the various columns and the descriptions. Now, the first thing to do is to import all the necessary libraries. This will always be so. And once you do that, this is a unique cell, for instance. And once you are done importing all the relevant libraries, you click here to run. You have to run this project. You can see what it's doing. What you are doing right now, you are loading and running an application right from your Google Colab. And when it is done, you see by the side to give a tick, meaning that it has loaded the computer from wherever it is in the cloud and it's doing what you are asking it to do. And that's what it does now. Okay? Once you see the tick and it says this thing was done within 19 seconds by the side, you can now move on. The next instruction is below. We are now in the next cell. This is the second cell. This second cell is about this notepad connecting to your Google Colab and you having to verify with your password because no other person anywhere in the world should be able to connect to your email address. So this will want to have your credentials and accreditation of authentication so that what you are trying to do here should gain access to your email account. You must authorize it. Okay, so at this point, it has loaded because it's successful. By saying the tick, it means it was successful. If something is not successful, it will throw an error. Now, for loading that, it has loaded my file. Look at the name of my file. The name of the file is a CSV file called churn.csv from my Google Drive. So the folder is Drive, my Colab projects notebook /bankchurn, then the name of the file was churn.csv. So you must describe the exact paths that leads to where the file is in your drive. So for this being successful automatically, I can now use, look at the name of the data frame I'm using here is called bank card. So that is the data frame. So there is a command that that I can now use to show the data, some part of the topmost data of that data set. So if I click here, the system will verify what I've just read, and it will give me the 1, 2, 3, 4 topmost 5 records. Please, if I have 1 million records, what bankcard.head will show me is only topmost 5. But at least it lets us know that yes, our loading was successful and we are seeing the right data. Anybody amiss at this point? Anybody? Anybody amiss at this time? We can continue, right? Now this data has been loaded into memory. So the next is we begin to, deal with our data, look for what is happening, clean them up. The first is we're checking the shape of the data. There's something called shape. What does this mean? If you are looking for the shape of the size of data, take note, we are just on the laptop or on the mobile app, and you want to know how many rows of record do you have in that file. If I say the name of the data frame, take note, and I say .shape, please, if you Google for cheat sheets, you'll find cheat sheets to how you use data frame on your notebook. So bankcard.shape will give you the total number of records in terms of rows and columns. So this result, if I run, is telling me that I have 10,000 records, lines, rows, and we have 14 columns. Please take note. Columns are the vertical, 1, 2, where you have row number, customer ID, surname, credit score, geography, gender, age, tenure, balance, number of products, and so on, And then towards the bottom, where you are counting rows down, 1, 2, 3, 4, we are talking about 10,000 records. And this is still small data. This is still small data. Dr. Kofi, don't you have data in serious magnitude in your pharmacy fields?
Oh, yes, there is a lot, especially when it comes to inventory. Inventory data, for example, is a huge data.
So how have you helped yourself? Because you owe yourself the management, the treatment, and the analysis of those data, and it does not have to be stressful. And funny enough, you know it all, you know what to do. Tell me why you are not the programmer that can do this. That's the programming mind. Okay, we go down. This simple data here is just 10,000. You could have been 1 million plus. Okay, then later we say, making a copy of the data. Take note, Bankcard is the data frame that we originally read. It's always advisable for you to keep a copy of it in memory so that you don't destroy your original set of data. Please listen to that rule. we are making a copy here by saying bank card DF, which I just attached DF, meaning data frame, and that bank card dot copy. What this simply means is that please store whatever I had, that 10,000 rows and 14 columns. Can you help me duplicate it into a data frame called bank card DF? The reason being that when I'm working now, I want to be working in a new data frame called bank card DF so that my original bank card is not destroyed. Please, if you are in a real life scenario, these are very important things to do. And nobody does trials with AI. When AI confuses or disturbs or whether it misses its track, it may have been because the human error was there. In the course of your work, something may happen to your data. And please, you should always have something to fall back on for business continuity. Okay? Here, if I want to see the row number, the customer ID, and surname columns will need dropping. Okay, in the course of doing certain analysis, actually some set of data, sometimes they don't make sense. They don't make sense. So in the course of doing some work for you to get certain analysis, when you say row number, please, can somebody tell me what does row number really mean? Okay, like I want to analyze data to know people who are likely to leave the bank or not leave the bank, at this like that. So row number, what does it really go to? How is it going to contribute? What's the research value? What value will it add to my research? So certain fields that are not relevant, please, we can knock them off because they won't add value to our total outcome. So by the time we do this and we say bank.df, don't forget that we are now on bank.df and not mentioning bank card. So we drop the fields that we don't want. And as soon as we're done the dropping, we're dropping 1, 2, 3. So that means that our 14 columns has reduced by 3 columns, and this is what we will have. So the dot shape still tells us now, look at that. We still have 10,000 records, but now we are having 11 records because we have dropped three records that are rather, redundant and we don't need them. Okay, so we now can proceed. At this point, we are still cleaning data. We are still cleaning data. It can be very interesting. Now, we verify the actual names of columns in this set. Look, at this point, we can now print. When you print this, it tells you what types of data. We talked about, at this point, the info, look at this info. This info will tell you the type of data. This core is integer. This one here, geography here is object. Gender is object. Object being that it could be an image or so. And then you have floats. Remember, floats are decimals and all that. So on and so forth. It will tell you all the various types of data types that they have in the system or in that data set. Now we now say, okay, all this one is also talking about that. Then later we want to confirm, checking for null values. Do you know sometimes when you get people to get data for you to do your research, do you oftentimes or always get your data accurate? Anybody? When you don't get data accurate, do we think that when data is collected for some and we are unable to get data for the others, do we think that this error can impact on the outcome of the research? Anybody here has ever done research before? So, Dr. Kofi again, because you're on top of research.
Yes, I think it happens a lot.
Yes,
that
but the data you get
when we are
cannot be
collecting
good
data,
enough. That's right.
yeah,
Yes.
and sometimes we have values that are so odd because
Thank you.
Some people can walk away, and those ones can really affect.
You see? So really, there will always be such instance. So we have to test whether there is even missing values. Some things are maybe they are empty. So they were able to get data for this, but for some sets of people, they were empty. So if you say bank card df.isNull.sum, it will tell us all such rows that had problem of being null. Because it's not just being missing, but that they were null, that they couldn't record the data for them. And this could be a problem. So if you have null, you need to also treat them. But we've tested now, and there is no such null. So we can proceed. Then we also test for uniqueness. And look at that. Okay. Are there unique values in each column? We did all of this. We did all of this. Okay. Then the next is checking the unique values in each column. Okay, which is the same. That's been tested here. We keep going. Then bank div this unique 460. Okay. Then we now check the head. This is just looking at the data over and over, over and over. Then if we run this, .describe, it will tell you the count. The count will always be the 10,000. The mean for each column, it will tell you what the mean for each column is. The standard deviation, the mean, minimum, 25% percentile, 50, 75 maximum, and for each of these. Now, then later we continue. We are still analyzing data at this point. So at this point, after look at what we did, we initialized, we loaded our data, we begin to watch our data, we can do anything to data. At this point, we are still analyzing and correcting, anomalies that may exist in the data and all that. We also check for whether data contains duplicates. Some lines may just be unduly duplicated. So some filtering can also detect all of that. So once that is filtered and we can get, the analysis keeps going on, we get to a point where we say it's about exploratory data analysis. Exploratory data analysis. And here we call it EDA. EDA is a very important component of your data work. I'm trying to get from here, now proceeding to visualization. EDA is an important part of any problem involving data. It is important to investigate and understand the data better before building a model with it. A few questions have been mentioned below, and we're going to go through this now. So here, we want to visualize how the gender is distributed. Now, so if you look at this, that data with all of this, as we run, this is the outcome. So you can read the data based on what is there, and you can now see the relationship between the data for France, the gender data for Spain, the gender data for Germany. And of course, furthermore, on the distribution of geography by exited people. Don't forget, this is about customers leaving. So more people, the exited people is the color here, not exiting is this. So France are seeming to have a good balance, Spain and Germany, and very few, because it's hardly noticeable here. Okay, visualize how the gender is distributed. Here, the gender distribution between the female, the male, okay, and which of them are exiting. They are appearing balanced, and for this service particularly, the exited, which is in red, is not very noticeable. Then visualizing how the credit score is distributed, that also points to a lot of things. Look at the distribution, Now, the distribution of credit score of exiting. Look at that. Very, very whatever, but then it points to something at that point. Okay? Then distribution of credit score also at that point. And when we have something like this, shows that there might be some outliers. Outliers are things that are a bit farther away from the norms, but your statistics are further buttresses what you do to those things. Then the data goes ahead. So what we are doing here is just that same time you read data, you can do all that you want. You can do all that you want. And at this point, you're not doing any mathematics. I don't think I've calculated anything. It's just to use the functions, that's all. And these functions will work with your data to drive all these things home. So they are not things you cram. It's just to interact. Change the data now. You get results for other things. Distribution of number of products. They will test a lot of things and confirm what are what until we now get to areas where you're talking about the heat map. The heat map will now begin to look at relationships. What are the things that are contributing to people to exit? And when you actually analyzing and coming up with outcomes, the result you are getting will be realistic because the data you are using is the direct data relevant to that business. So you're not in an hypothetical environment. Okay, distribution of active members and so on. It really can be a lot. Actually, this particular notebook was quite a lot because it was one of the notebooks I've used in the course of my project sometime last year. Then here you can see proportion of bank customers exiting and the proportion of customers who will stay. And this is like looking not too bad for a bank, for instance, but then it's bad sign for you to see that you are losing 20% of your customers. Or predictably, that 20% of your customers are likely to move because of the way you are running now. Dr. Kofi, please, do you get something? Do you get this up to this point?
Yes.
Okay, so that is actually in itself. It's not that they may have gone, no, but it's a prediction. The data you have is able to predict for you that this is likely to happen any moment from now. About 20% that you're going to lose. And we're going to begin to see all the areas of the issues. Now, so about 20% of the customers have exited or they plan to, while this will stay. But it's not an assurance. Don't forget, it's a realm where we are hypothetically thinking. Everybody is researching. Okay? Okay, we now can proceed, do some more visualizing the category variables. Now your subplots will now begin to talk to one another. We are looking at okay, the geography, that being the area, the gender, we're combining things. People who have credit cards and people who do not have credit cards, people who are active, who are not active, because not every bank customer will be active. But since we'll be able to get information for all of them, we can now put all of them together and even combine to see what relationships they all have. And when you are when you are into competition, this is why some people will always stay ahead, because you must be on top of your data and your data should be able to speak to you. Your data should be able to speak to you. Now, this is actually the heat map, for instance, correlation matrix heat map, where if we say credit score here on the y-axis, we should be able to see the credit score on the other axis, and where they meet, things that happen is telling you stories. And these were questions asked and answers are also determined. It means that they say, what is the distribution of the credit score of customers? Are there any noticeable patterns and blah, 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 and all that. So based on that, you get to realize that there are observations and things you can say based on how these things are interacting. You know, for instance, if you look at, there was actually a mention of something here that there are about 5,000 active customers. We're able to get this based on what is happening here. You know, that the female customers churning more than the male customers. Maybe the female customers are less patient to bad customer and bad customer service. Is that correct, Gifty? Gifty, can that really happen in real life? Because this was actually this was a scenario. You know, you also may look at the other reasons. Credit scores appear same for both exited and staying customers. There are observed outliers below 400. And these were things you can now say based on what you are reading from the outcome. Now, at this point, we want to do data processing. That is data processing to begin to do further work. You do missing value treatment, you do feature engineering, you prepare data for modeling, any other pre-processing steps and all that, outlier detection. Like we saw the case, we saw about some outliers actually exist, because from the map, when you begin to see things like this, look at this in this map, look at things like this on this map, this is something telling you that something is far away from the action points. But then because the data still will be captured, we now see them, and these are called outliers. So people who read data are able to look at this and be able to give proper meanings to them. So when you are doing that, now you're now doing something that can now train data for future. We are talking about a bank here. So we need to be able to train this data, and that in that data, their data will now be able to guide. When they are doing something wrongly, we'll be able to tell them that this is not okay, and therefore they should be able to mediate or change their ways and all of that. So this particular lecture apart from the fact that you're looking up how we can do this, I have to just pick up a clear example to let you know that it's not just coming to notebook, or when you're saying program, it's not just saying 2 + 2. It's not just saying why 5 - 2. There are major problems that your data that you may actually want to solve. And the power of Python is to actually say that with irrespective of what size of data and problem that you are trying to solve, this is the power of artificial intelligence. So it's not just by word of mouth. Okay. So, and once we are training at the level of training, which we're not really going to be bothered about that now, the training models will be able to generate things and even refine your processing and be able to tell you how things should be done. And at the end of the day, look at all these are processing steps, which would come up with certain results, and whatever that they now later come up, you will be able to compare, observations, and the system will be able to let you know how you can optimize the outcome of all of this. All these things generated is not your business. The system is the one generating and giving you outcome based on the training data. So you see the training data and the test data, and at the end of the day, what do you say? So at the end of the day, what is important is that you should have a recommendation for the organization. So the optimized model gives better results as seen from the confusion matrix, as well as improved accuracy. So much when you do all of these things, the kind of result we get is just to tell you, going forward, there are ways you need to, this data is your asset, key data asset. Even if it is an airline, that is why in an airline company, they are able to let you know how best to solve passengers' problems. And that is why some airlines are doing well and some are not doing well at all. I think I shared that this in our first set of talks at our distance. So this is like a typical problem shared, and I'm happy this video is there, and you will always try to take some small interactions and some other small videos or what have you to speak to them. Let me just stop here for now. Let me talk to Miriam. Miriam was to leave at 1. Miriam, any reason why you couldn't leave at 1? You were afraid? Unmute yourself. Please, can we unmute? Let's interact.
No, sir, I think it was Cynthia.
Oh, great. Yeah, Cynthia. Oh, she's moved. She's moved already. Okay, great. Excellent. Right. But then, Miriam, how do you feel and how do you see this talk? How is it relevant? Are you sure it's useful to you at all?
Yes, it is. But I think it requires a lot of practicals
no.
to be able to do that.
To be frank with you, I am a learner and I'm still learning. And that is one thing about it. And when you say you are a learner, that's because you've not exhausted all the possible problems and you all have issues. You will always be doing one thing or the other. Yes.
Okay.
So, but then, please do not lose sight of this education, no matter how small. It's something that you need to be regular. It's something that if you are doing one thing, it becomes a part of you.
Okay.
I feel it too myself that, oh, maybe in the course of doing one thing, because of doing that, I'm really not sitting down to do whatever. But maybe on the day, I'll get a paying machine learning work and job. I don't have a choice. I need to key into that, and that you need to go. But it's easy for you to refresh and pick to do one thing or the other. And please visit that Kaggle website, because you see simple problems, simple, complex, basic issues from different. And that is like, there might be others, but this is really very useful, because you see exercises as assignments that people have been given over the years. Google it. You see what even sample projects that people have done that they did well. So they post it in that place. Let me hear from Grace Adubia. How was this related to you? Okay, Grace's sound wasn't there since. Let me hear from Abraham. Yes, Abraham was to give me that her fear, she was afraid of something else. Or he was afraid of something. and Oluwapo Abraham.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. I didn't hear. Okay, yes. Your thoughts?
My thought about the training. I just need to put it
How
into
relevant?
practice.
How relevant is it at all? If at all, how relevant is it?
It's not really relevant for me because I work more in HR. So I'm trying to even relate it with maybe research.
Excellent.
With my,
Okay,
with my
you work in the HR, right? Please,
yes.
when you visit Cargo, refer for notebooks, sample notebooks on HR solutions. You see myriads. So that when you say you are there, it's not related to you. You probably appreciate what people have done in your field already. Yes. Let me take Otabo.
Okay, well done, sir. Thank you so much for the training. That was really insightful and very, very relevant, very much relevant to me and what I do. Because in marketing, actually, you need this a lot. You need to know, you need to actually know the customers that you're working with. You need to know if they're actually buying your product or not. You need to know if you're making sales or not. So I'm relating it, what you've done, trying to relate it to marketing. You need to be able to know, like, if your client is buying or not, if he's not buying your product. And I think it's very, very, very much relevant. And thank you so much for that. And I think I'll check out the Cargo website.
Yes, in fact, along that area, sometimes I'm sure if you follow the trends on Amazon, who is a regular on Amazon? Now, if you follow the trend on Amazon, and perhaps you've had the opportunity of buying one thing or the other, if you notice that even when you're done with one business with Amazon, say a month, a year ago, Amazon still trails you, still sends things to you, because from your point one of onboarding yourself on the Amazon website, what you filled, what you bought, this is actually what they do to keep the record of you, and from time to time, they share with you what other people like you, what they are buying. If you buy a book now, they may suggest the title of another class of book because you bought one. I don't know whether who has ever seen that. Dr. Mensah?
I think
Yes.
I've not really used Amazon, but I've used Jumia.
It
So
could be
Jumia
anyone. Yeah, most of
does
them use
that
this.
too. Yes.
Yeah, most of them, they use this because they do some sentiment analysis. It shares sentiment. You have classification problems, and you have, so they just use all these things, and it goes a long way to tell them, and in fact, it improves their marketing, the marketing on their portal, and that's the way it is. So, Dr. Mensah.
Yes, they do something like they do something like a customer analysis or something like that.
Yes.
More like
when they take those data from each and every one of you, they know what they do eventually. It's just to improve it's like to improve the system, and that is why they are doing training. They are training the data. So training the data for the future will obviously improve their business. Training the data of a bank would obviously improve their customer service because they're already seeing the pitfalls and so on and so forth. So from the health area now with Dr. Mensah, what's your experience?
Yes, I think this is really helpful. Most often than not, clinical decisions are made based on data. There are some educations that, in fact, even in public health, decisions are basically on data, and that is how we are able to even determine whether a particular intervention is useful to the population or not compared to the harm. Even here at INCAS Diagnostic, where I currently work, when they are designing test kits, they collect a lot of data to see whether this thing that they have developed is working and at what rate is it detecting what they want it to detect, and then what's the failure rate. So they have to weigh the benefit against the failure to see if it is worth doing before they even proceed with the mass production. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I mean, having said this, you realize that, quite frankly, there is actually no area. And please, like I put it, you all have to please visit Cargo and pick a particular subject matter of a particular problem. And I will need you to actually build a Google Colab process. If you have any issue, drop a line, a message, and you all have to have a Google Colab notebook of one problem or another. It's of choice. And please take enough resources from the Cargo side, because there's no, if you're looking for things about the dead, yes, if you need it for about population, there's nothing you will get. Because there's no problem that one man or another has not tried solving at one point or another for ages, for decades, and those records are available on the cargo.com. So you have 2 weeks to turn in a notebook. You have 2 weeks to turn in a notebook of an exercise of a problem that you're trying to achieve. Is that taken? Desmond?
Yeah.
Desmond, Dakora?
Hello.
Yes, yes. What area would you be interested? For instance, can I share? Can people just tell me what area will be their interest? What area, for instance, if you have a problem to solve on the Google Colab using notebooks, you obviously could be running into issues from time to time. Please share them in real time. And do it at your pace, I say within 2 weeks. And one thing I just don't like is for you to wait until the day of submission in 2 weeks. I used to have to make that error or mistake. When we are giving assignments, I wait till the last 9 minutes. For this kind of assignment, this is not what you do. You must be gradually making the inputs, making the errors, scaling it, and progressing. Otherwise, if you rush it, this is not the kind of things you want to rush. It will be a rush class, but you don't rush the actual life practice. Desmond, I was asking, what area would you have done? So if I know your area, I know what I would expect.
Okay, so currently in my company we are trying to solve some distribution issues with one of our products. So I'm hoping I'll be able to use the collab to help solve
Okay.
them.
Okay. Anyone else? I've heard the marketing thing from Ottawa. Of course, Dr. Kofi has a medical. He will always be a lot of things from there. So he has something to do from there. Miriam, what area would be yours? Okay, that's the HR person, right? Hello, Miriam.
Yeah,
Yes.
I also work in the admin and support, so
Excellent. Now you will always find something in HR on that aspect. That's why I said you should Google. You'll find one thing about support and admin. So I would stop the class now, and I'll thank every one of you. We'll continue, and we're back on our projects calendar as it is. Thank you, and have a pleasant weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.